Welcome to lecture series on machine learning techniques. So in the previous lecture series, we have seen what is machine learning, what is AI, what is deep learning, and we have seen what are the various components of machine learning. So in today's lecture series, we will discuss about the machine learning models. So these machine learning models are created by training the machine learning algorithms. So training is done either with the help of labeled data or unlabeled data, or we may use both in case of supervised learning. Based on the usage, we have classified the machine learning model into three main types. One is supervised learning, unsupervised learning, semi-supervised learning. So initially I have said there is another model, reinforcement learning. So this classification is mainly done based on whether the model uses labeled data or unlabeled data. In case of supervised learning, if the machine trains the algorithm based on labeled data, it is called as supervised learning. Uh, Training the model with the labeled data, it helps the machine model to classify the data easily. In case of unsupervised learning, unlabeled data is used to train the algorithm. So in this process, the algorithm will try to find the data pattern, and based on those pattern, it will create the clusters. So whenever you want to find pattern in the data that is currently unknown, you can opt unsupervised learning. In case of semi-supervised learning, it uses both labeled as well as unlabeled data to train the algorithm. Initially, the algorithm will be trained with small amount of labeled data before training it with the unlabeled data. So this is a working of semi-supervised learning model. So the classification of machine learning models, as I said, there are three classifications: supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. Now look at this diagram. In case of supervised learning, it takes input data with labels as in data set with the label as input, and it produces a mapping. Mapping is classification, and in case of unsupervised learning, it takes data without labels, that is unlabeled data, and it produces classes. In case of reinforcement learning, it is purely based on the various states and action. Again, the state and action is produced as the output based on a trial and error method. So supervised learning, we can classify the supervised learning again into the two categories. One is classification and regression, whereas unsupervised learning is classified into clustering, association rule, and dimensionality reduction. So let us see one by one in detail. Of all the machine learning method models, supervised learning is the simplest one to understand, since the uh, in, data is labeled. Here the input data is called as the training data, uh, and this training data is associated with a known label. So it works on the principle input output pair. Mm, Here we need to create a function that should be trained using the input training data set, and then it should be applied to the unknown data, and which makes some predictive performance. So this supervised learning is task-based model or task-based algorithm and is tested on labeled data sets. The supervised algorithm can be applied, or it is applicable for several real-world problems such as uh, finding the age of the person based on the height, and house price prediction. So these are some of the examples in real life where supervised learning can be applied. So this supervised model, as we have said before, it is further classified in two types. One is classification, other one is regression. Regression comes first, and then only classification. Uh, how this regression model and classification model differs is that regression is based on continuous variable, whereas classification is based on discrete variables. For example, continuous variable in the sense the variable will hold values like 10, 20, 0, all numerical values. On the other hand, if the class label contains values like dog, cat, apple, orange, and then it is discrete variables. So regression deals with continuous variable, whereas uh, classification deals with the discrete variables. Again, in case of regression, we have many types of regression like linear, polynomial, logistic regression. So only linear regression and polynomial regression comes under supervised learning, whereas logistic regression it comes under unsupervised learning. So let me explain a linear regression alone here. So of all the machine learning model, linear regression is the simplest one, where the output variable is predicted based on one or more input variables. So the linear regression is represented using a linear equation y equal to mx plus c or y equal to bx plus c, where x is the set of input values and y is the predicted output. So this is the graphical representation of linear regression. All the green color dots represents the data points, input data points. Here x is an independent variable and y is dependent variable. And that blue color line is the slope or the line of regression. So this model regression, it aims at finding the best fit line that fits the data point. So if plane is used to find the best fit, it is called multiple linear regression. And if a curve is used, it is polynomial regression. So that is how the main difference. If a single line is used, it is linear regression. If a plane is used in place of a line, it is multiple linear regression. And if a curve is used, it is polynomial regression. So hope you understood what are the various machine learning models and what is regression. What are the real life examples that can be solved with the help of regression. So here we have discussed about linear regression. In the next lecture series, we will discuss about some other machine learning algorithms. So keep watching and thanks for watching this lecture video.